President Trump is responding after Hillary Clinton accused his administration of engaging in a cover-up of the Epstein files, saying it looks like they have, quote, something to hide.
Clinton made the accusation in an interview with BBC News earlier this week. Take a look.
There's something about this administration's attitude toward this, which I think really leads us to conclude they have something to hide. We don't. We have been willing to say whatever we know. We've even done it under oath.
And here was Donald Trump aboard Air Force One denying those allegations.
I have nothing to hide. I've been exonerated. I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. They went in hoping that they'd find it and found just the opposite. I've been totally exonerated. In fact, Jeffrey Epstein was fighting that I don't get elected with some author, a sleazebag, by the way. And I've been totally exonerated. No, they're getting pulled in, and that's their problem. I don't know, they're gonna have to see what happens. But I watched her in Munich, and she seriously has Trump derangement syndrome.
Do you think that she should publicly testify?
You know, I've been totally exonerated on Epstein, and it's really interesting because they've been pulled in.
Hillary Clinton and her husband, Bill Clinton, are set to testify before Congress later this month, but have continued to insist they were not involved in Epstein's criminal activity. And the two have called for a public hearing rather than a closed-door deposition.
Some people online took issue with Trump saying he was exonerated in the Epstein files. Journalist Michael Tracy wrote in part, one day he's saying he's sad that Bill Clinton has been roped into this mess. The next day he's back to the reflexive partisan shtick that he had nothing to do with Epstein, and anyway, the Clintons are the ones who are really implicated. Never-ending cycle of nonsense that only further fans the flames. Of course, Trump had something to do with Epstein. They were clearly good pals for a number of years, closer than the Clintons ever were with Epstein.
And right-wing commentator Zach Costello says, quote, who keeps telling Trump the talking point we care about is whether he is exonerated in the Epstein files or not? We care about the cover-up of all the criminals in the files. It's not about him. I'm realizing that Trump's narcissism is getting in the way of him realizing what the actual problem is. He calls the Epstein files a hoax because he only thinks of himself and what the left is trying to do to him.
I'm going to substantially agree with Trump here.
That he's exonerated?
Yes. Well, he's also not accused of anything.
That's why I said the exonerated word is kind of weird to me.
He's exonerated of public suspicion, right?
Okay.
He should be. There's no evidence of any wrongdoing on Trump's part whatsoever. Never was to begin with. And I think that's that. Now, I don't like... Excuse me. I don't like him throwing shade at the Clintons, but Clinton's trying to throw... You know, they're trying to say, it's not us, it's really them. It's neither of them. There's no evidence against the Clintons either. Nothing. Zero.
Okay.
None.
Trump's team is
Move
actively trying to embarrass the Clintons.
Well, they're trying to embarrass him.
Stop. You always want to point fingers. I'm talking about the story right now. Clintons are speaking to his team because they asked them to come in and to come speak about Epstein.
Comer asked them to do that.
Okay,
Not Trump.
fine. Comer asked them to come in and speak about Epstein.
And Hillary said, we have nothing to hide. It's Trump who has
So let it
something
be
to hide.
public. And also, Trump should be deposed and let it be public, because instead of giving these blanket denials that Trump keeps giving, why doesn't he give nuanced clarification? That's what we're about to get from Hillary Clinton.
Sir, when did you stop beating your wife?
Okay, but we're getting nuanced clarification from the Clintons, right? They can ask any questions. So why can't Trump do the same thing and then both move on? In the same way that he was, like we read in the tweet, good pals with Epstein at some point, right? Between 1990s to 2000s. Like, that was his friend at some point. So he needs to give.
Is not a crime.
And neither is it for Hillary Clinton having people donate to your charity. That's not a crime. You're right. These are all.
That's why I've said they have nothing to do with this either.
Right, but if the Clintons have to continue to be publicly scrutinized for this, well, the administration, since they've been so involved with calling it a hoax, and because Trump's hand-selected team has been so involved in the botched rollout of this whole thing, perhaps we should have an equal playing field where both former leaders of the world, the free world, go out and speak about this. Bill Clinton and Trump. And then we can just be satisfied in that regard and know that perhaps there's no criminal implication there. And then we can move on. I think that if Hillary's willing to testify and wants to make this public, so should Trump. And then we can move on and they can stop throwing stones.
Chelsea Clinton's wedding. And it's a little bit more substantial, but I don't really care. I don't think
that's up to you. You know how many moms invite people to their kids' weddings?
I do. That which is why, and just associating with someone is evidence of nothing. But you see how this same smear campaign can get anyone at this point, which is why this is all ridiculous.
There is a reason, like the last tweet that we read, that Trump is egotistical in a way, that he thinks this is about him and saying
what
he's
is about
exonerated.
him? Democrats are only interested in this issue so they can find something to get Trump. And they haven't found anything, and I suspect they won't find anything, but they're damned if they stop looking for it.
Well, I think this is
Doesn't matter how many innocent,
it's an active
no one
conversation
having to do with Epstein people
that
are
GOP
in the
leader
meantime.
Thomas Massey is deeply looking into, right?
He's a GOP. He's on the outskirts. He's going to be
He
not.
still is. He's in the party.
Congress
He's in the
anymore.
party. Oh, because he's looking. The problem right now is that there are women that potentially, maybe, allegedly were sex trafficked in some way. We already know that Epstein has
no
a
evidence.
charge with minors. We already know there's circulating evidence that there were a lot of people that were powerful around Epstein. Friendship doesn't mean much, but if there's an inkling that there might be a tie to some of these allegations, Thomas Massey is doing his best to see why Epstein operated with impunity for so long, who he might have known, and how many administrations this goes back to. I don't blame anybody who wants Trump to get out of his own ego and stop talking about himself, even if Democrats are, to look at what the rest of the world is talking about and saying, are there other victims that need justice right here? Are there other powerful men that are part of this ring? If not, let's move on. If there is, let's find it. And Trump, since he wanted to end bureaucracy and get to the bottom of it, bring all the light to the darkness that was politics, he should be the one on top of this case saying, just like his team was, just like Pam Bondi was, he should continue that argument that we're going to do what we said we were going to do and expose it all. And part of that would be him saying his piece and breaking down that nuance between his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Another part of that is helping the investigation any way he can, not redacting endless files, sharing information so that Thomas Massey can do his job of oversight.
The disclosure of the files has resulted in no new information about any criminal, sexual, pedophile perpetrator. What it has resulted in is Ro Khanna reading off the names of people on the House floor who had nothing to do with Epstein. They'd never met him. They were in the files because they were in a police lineup. Their names dragged through the mud, whatever consequences they're suffering. That is the tangible result of what we've done here, is people who have nothing to do with Epstein got accused falsely of criminal wrongdoing relating to Epstein. That is the tangible result of this effort so far. Right. And if that doesn't give anyone else pause, I don't understand my fellow human beings very well.
That's the only tangible result we have right now, but we know that we wanted to see the 2019 trial of Jeffrey Epstein through to see the sex trafficking charges that he was charged with.
We can't hang the man who's already dead.
Exactly, we can't.
I wish we could.
All right, but he may have had more information that he was willing to share because he knew he was facing extreme jail time. And so we'll never know the answer to that. So it's rightful for the victims and everybody supporting them to try to figure out what those answers might have been or share them with the public. You cannot bash people for looking into that. And sometimes
I can bash people
relationships
for a crusade that is damaging people of not that is introducing an idea into the public that is false, that is smearing innocent people. And just at some point, insisting on something for which you can't provide a shred of evidence should be seen as a negative, I would say.
And at some point, when it comes to, because you're talking about people's reputations being ruined in regards to their careers and things like that. No one's going to jail for being his friend. So reputations are ruined. At some point, private companies should have the ability to make decisions to cut ties with people that associate with known sexual predators,
those
right?
People I just mentioned have nothing.
Okay, not those. That's the one example, but there's several other people that you talked about. There are professors that emailed with him. There are other people that you talked about that are like, okay, you decided to
I'm not on board
speaking to this man.
That's just me. I'm not on board with a broad effort to. I'm not a cancel culture person. I'm not gonna call for people to be fired or lose their jobs or suffer massive harms for casual remaining in contact with that. I'm just not. I'm not going to do that. I'll do it for people who are emailing, who are scheming with him up to the very end, including Steve Bannon, Stacey Plaskett. I keep, the people whose judgment is very flawed with respect to Epstein, certainly. But I don't think it was worth ruining all these innocent people's good names in order to find out that Steve Bannon is not the most morally upstanding human being. I actually didn't need much help to arrive at that conclusion. Thank you.
Well, we're going to keep talking about this because Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, former Prince Andrew, has reportedly been arrested in England. We're going to tell you more about that next. Don't go anywhere.